Welcome to the Sunday edition of Saturdays with Sean. Thanks for being here. Assuming you're going to show up. Do I have audio? Why is that not coming through on my computer? Uh-oh. What is going on? Hold on a second. Maybe something is amok. You do have audio. It's not coming through on my end, which could be something strange. Probably my settings. Anyways, hey Victor, Aaron, Shane, glad you guys could show up on Sunday. Thanks for adjusting your schedule just for me. Much appreciated. I think my sound has gone in and out on my end. Output. Nope, I don't know. That's weird. It's not coming through my monitors, which is fine. It shouldn't, because then you'll get an echo, but I'll have to investigate that later, because that might be a problem long term. How's everybody doing? Hanging out on Sunday. Hey, CJ. Good to see you. All right, last week we started off with favorite class. Fantasy class. What should we do this week? Favorite non-D&D game? Favorite non-D&D game. Still could be fantasy. Thanks, Victor. Not favorite non-D&D game. Favorite non-D&D game. Go. What are you thinking? And if you've never played anything but D&D, then list a non-D&D game you'd like to play or run. Oh, doing some computer setup for coworker's laptop. That sounds fantastic, man. Savage Worlds. SW. Up, down, or off the table. Fast, furious, fun. All right. Come on. Victor's probably busy hitting enter on Windows. Clicking through the WYSIWYGs. Favorite non-D&D RPG. Hey, what's up, Wayne? Thanks for showing up on Sunday, man. Cost of entry. Your favorite non-D&D game. Can be fantasy. Forbidden Lands, Shane says. Boom. Call of Cthulhu, Aaron says. Look at that. Aaron, I would have pegged you for maybe a Shadowrun since I sold you Shadowrun. COC. All-time favorite is Star Frontiers. Current favorite is probably The One Ring. Or maybe Urban Shadows 2E. Victor can't just pick one. The struggle is real. Old school favorite was Star Wars. Or Star Frontiers and WEG Star Wars. Yeah. I should run WEG. I've actually never played WEG. It's the only version of Star Wars I haven't played. That's crazy, right? And it's the one I've probably owned the longest. Strange. I think I got rid of my D20 stuff, except for Saga. Shadowrun. Shadowrun. All right. Anybody, any latecomers? If you're sitting there lurking, favorite non-D&D RPG. And if you've only played D&D, what would you like to play? I did not say what mine was. For a long time, WEG was a turnoff, but that was based on stories from friends of friends. I really need to give it a go. I heard Jedi can get a little crazy, but I don't know if I'd run any. I might just rule out Jedi, like make it during a certain era. I don't know. We'll see. Or make it during the Jedi Civil War and have people like go up in level for Jedi and not care because they'll go up against other Jedi. Wayne says really hard currently Forbidden Lands. Still have a soft spot for Dungeon World. Mine would probably be favorite. Oof. 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 Ah. I don't know. Maybe Delta Green. Maybe Delta Green. Forbidden Lands is good and fun. Maybe Delta Green. I'm listening to the Glass Cannon Network run Impossible Landscapes. That thing is... I tell people to listen to it, but some of them are in my Impossible Landscapes game. But it is quite amusing. It's a good balance of serious play and not so serious. If that makes any sense. Like they can laugh around the table and it doesn't seem like it's genuinely funny. Where some actual plays are like people laughing around a table and it's not really funny. It's a great actual play. Fantasy World finish. Spiritual successor to DW. Yeah, Shane, they are. I knew that they existed for a long time, but I did not know the scope of their, or the breadth of their fandom and how. And it wasn't until Eric Frankhouse of Eric Frankhouse Presents, guy down the road in Milwaukee, we were talking about streaming and Twitch and YouTube and how do you make money and what's that look like and how easy it is and what do you have to do. And Craig Shipman of Third Floor Wars had interviewed Joel on his show, I believe. And that was the first insight into Glass Cannon. Like I never watched them, never listened to them, just knew that they were a big podcast. And that interview was very interesting to me because he unveiled and peeled back a few layers of actual play and what they've been able to achieve. And Eric has been streaming for a while now, and he was like, those guys are making bank, man. And it wasn't until the interview that Craig did with them that I realized like 2 or 3 of them quit their day jobs, and that's what they do. Like it's all part of the Glass Cannon Network thing. And they go on tour. Like they just came through Milwaukee not too long ago, like a month ago. Very impressed by how they've been able to do that. Yeah, it's crazy. So, this would be the first like live action play I've listened to. It's the Delta Green one, and it's pretty hilarious. It's hilarious because there's a character in there that is just hilarious, but he's not so crazy off the wall to break. Because there's moments of very deep, cool suspense, and everybody's attention is completely held. And Joel does I think it's Joel. Joel does a great job at being a handler. And all the cast is great too, but they all take on very particular roles. And so when it's serious, it's really down to business. And then when somebody says something really ridiculous, it sounds really ridiculous, but it's a good one. So if you're not, it's kind of a tricky question. Like if you're into Delta Green, then I would highly recommend listening to it. But if you want to play Impossible Landscapes, then I would not. Anyways, who else showed up? Anybody new? I didn't see anybody. Might be a small chat today. Who knows? A little outside everybody's regularly scheduled program. But I wanted to do it yesterday just to let everybody know that wasn't like in the know. I flew down to Austin for literally a day. So I flew out on Friday morning, whooped it up with some of my coworkers, turned around on Saturday and came back. So that's why I couldn't stream. However, I think if you tune into me on Twitter, I could have probably streamed, but I would have had to have been in the airport because literally from like 8 o'clock in the morning Central Time to 10 o'clock was completely open. Like I got there 2 hours early, and then my plane didn't board until 10:15. So I could have literally streamed, but I would have probably looked a little odd in the middle of the airport. Not that I would have given a shit, but you know, I didn't have a mic, and it would have had to been through my iPad and stuff. So, CJ says, anyone else play a system you used to enjoy so long you just don't want to anymore? Mine would be close to 5e, although maybe it might be. I'm not opposed to getting back to it. I don't know. Yeah. Well, it's a birthday anniversary of the company I work with, or work for, I should say, and I'm the only one remote, so I didn't have to go. Like, it wasn't like, hey, Sean, you need to come down. But it's a big deal, and the reason is because the founder I'm close with, she gave me my first job in recruiting, and she broke off from the company we both worked for, and that breaking off was not easy. Basically just said, you know, I don't care if I have a no compete. I'm going to start my own thing. So, assuming, Victor, your comment was directed at me. All right, should we start getting into this thing? What are we going to start? One reason I wanted to do today, because I had a few things that fell outside the norm. Like, there wasn't, yes, we have the print releases and, you know, the Kickstarters and the crowdfunding campaigns to go through. But there were some things that had popped up that I thought, this might be interesting to talk about, and I didn't want to really put it off for another week. Not that it's like overly time sensitive, if you will. All right, first one. Free to download War Stories. I did this one already. I didn't delete this. I got to go and get this. Did I get this? I don't remember. I brought this up before. I just haven't removed it from the list. Whoops. Don't need this one. False alarm. False start. Let's try again. Not that one. Oh, see, I got all these on the same saved page. What is this? Oh, this might be. Yeah, okay. This was something I came across, and I don't think I've posted it anywhere. So this is Minva, tabletop design company. Okay. And they came up in one of my news feeds, and they have some products like a D&D t-shirt. And the thing that kind of tripped me up on them was they have a 5th edition Notion template for $30. So if you're a Notion person and you use Sly Flourish's template, Mike Shea, then great. But this is one they put together, and I was looking at what is all involved in this thing, and it includes a database template, which includes like magical items, adventures, locations in your world, and much more. So some screenshots I'm flicking through. One is it's relational databases, which is what Notion's strength is, I think, when you deal with it from a RPG perspective. So if you're not familiar with Notion, check it out. People are like, I like OneNote, which is great. But OneNote is very much static. As a matter of fact, Microsoft is coming out with a competitor to Notion, which I don't think is even out yet. But Notion has quite a bit more power, but the formatting's probably not as rich as OneNote, maybe? I don't know. I wouldn't say that. But the problem with Notion is you can't work offline with it. That's the big one. That's the big hang up. So they've got this template, and I was looking at it, and it says create your own custom adventures with a few clicks, which is interesting. So I don't know if it's like a fill in the blank or if it's pulling from certain things, lists. Never worry about where to start. as our Notion system has all the templates you need. So there's multiple templates probably within it. Get complete support for SRD 5th edition rules and enjoy random table generators. So they probably took a lot of the SRD and put it in as database. So they probably have a database of monsters. And then all the monsters have stats. Right, where actually that's the next bullet point. Databases for I could probably make this a little bit bigger for you. Databases for adventures and locations, treasures, NPCs, monsters, character profiles, and more are all interconnected with Notion relation fields. So what that means is you could be on a page talking about something and you can literally just do an @ do @ and then just type the monster. And when you do that, it creates a dynamic backlink or link to that monster, and you just click on it. And then it's there. It's what I liked about Notion, and I had done a video and it's on this channel if you want to check it out. But essentially what it does is books linear, back to front, page by page. When you start getting into linkage, then you can really do quicker. You don't have to flip. It's just click on it and you go to it. And then you can go back to where you were very easily. So it removes that, I would say, some of the downfalls of having a book. But so I thought it was kind of cool. I have not bought it because I'm not really playing 5th edition right now. But if I did, I would probably spring for the $30. With Notion, you can easily invite your players to collaborate on the player character database or session 0 guide before you play. Included on your dashboard are quick access links to each database, tips and tricks on how to use Notion and our templates. This is fantastic. Like, good for them. Let's see, what else does it have here? Skill challenge planner. I mean, some of these are just like, you could do this on your own. You just have to have the knowledge to do it and the time. And I don't know if they have an importer. So if they had to type all this stuff in, it could be rather, labor intensive. But this skill challenge planner says name. So you're probably so when you put this, if you can kind of see, you can't really see my mouse. But if you see in the picture here where it says escape the collapsing dungeon, when you type in that field, it creates that page. So when you click on that page, whatever you have on it, So by just typing in there, you create it dynamically. And then obviously it's tagged as an escape. Fail number 6, succeed number 3, whatever that means. Maybe it's the whether you can, how many skills you need to, like a skill challenge, right? And you know what? You could probably buy this, and then you could probably reverse engineer it for any RPG that's out there, honestly. Because let's face it, a lot of RPGs are put together in a similar fashion. Morning, Harrigan. Harrigan, price of entry. Sorry you're a little late. That's okay. But favorite RPG that is not Did I say non-D&D RPG? Which should be pretty easy, because I know Harrigan's not a big D&D fan. Could be fantasy. Could be anything. Or did I say non-fantasy? No, fantasy. I forgot what I asked. Favorite non-D&D RPG. And now we're going over Notion. These guys put out a template for 5th edition, but yeah. Well, now it's trickier for you. You got to narrow it down. Thank you, Victor. I'm glad Victor's paying attention, because I can't even pay attention to myself. So dashboard, navigate to each page easily, tips on using the template, links to other useful resources. I'm interested in getting this and just seeing how they put it together. And that, I think, is one of the challenges with Notion. When you get it, you're just so overwhelmed on what it can do or how to do things. Like, how do I set this up? I could create a page like OneNote and just type in it, but that's not where the power lies. So anyways, I thought that was cool. Session 0. Here's a session 0 template. which is probably just a page, and then you could get some table of contents, and then you could create the setting, and then you could link to that setting page, and that you could. Nice thing about Notion is you could share certain pages and not others. So with your players, you can invite them into Notion, and then you just give them access to like session 0, the setting, maybe a list of NPCs. I really should use it more for role-playing games, because I think if you can get into the way that it's organized in your own brain, you probably, like, my biggest problem is referencing all the material in a quick and timely fashion. But it takes a lot to enter some of that stuff. Let's see. Here's the 5e SRD rules reference. So they probably have a page for each thing, and then they have a master page called the DM rules reference that links to all those subsequent pages. And you could put that in a table of contents, I guess, taxonomy or whatever. Not taxonomy, but it's a data feature, like content type. That's what I meant. Content type, table of contents, boom. And as long as you have them H1, H2, H3 tagged, it'll put it in the hierarchy, just much like many word processing programs like Microsoft Word. And then this, I don't know what this is. Proficiencies in language, common, skills. This is the Chloe, player character. This is a player character's Chloe Hawktail. So this is a PC sheet, it looks like. So besides that, I was looking at the rest of their kind of site, and they have like initiative tracker cards, which you could probably make on your own, but I thought were kind of cool. D&D NPC and monster cards. Like somebody's just kind of sitting around doing some templates, putting them out, trying to make a couple bucks. D&D player turn guide. D&D session 0 guide sample. Minimal D&D character sheet sample. These two are actually free. You can get tabletop game session notes template, quest campaign Notion template. Interesting. Minimal D&D spell and item cards. D&D new character bundle. Mega bundle. Let's see, session 0 guide. Yeah, it's so good for them. Trying to kind of, gotta say, they're really good on their branding. They have TTRPG Instagram templates, which I am like completely, I must be like in the dark ages when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, check them out. That was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. Eileen, good morning. You're driving. Okay, so you can't type in the chat, but can you say what your favorite non-D&D RPG is? Just say it out loud enough for all of us to hear. And, nope, louder. No, still can't hear you. And Harrigan's behind. Cypher, I know you can't be driving and type that. You can't be. That's wrong, and you might kill somebody. Please don't do that. Oh, you're still in the garage. I should probably read the rest of that. You're in the garage. How many questions should we throw at Eileen to keep her preoccupied so that she can't actually leave the garage? All right. Polygon. The fork in the road facing third-party tabletop RPGs. I haven't read this, but it came up, and I'm like, it should probably be something to bring up, and we'll just read it together as I not show you. Designers say D&D's walled garden approach to indie creation can't end well. Okay, so fear, uncertainty, and doubt. They're changing D&D. They're doing one D&D. They have D&D Beyond. It's going to be a lot of digital. It's going to be probably a lot of digital books, and so the world is going to, it's going to end. So if you're not ready for that, the world is going to end for you. It just is. Okay, so Orcus Dorcas, price of admission, favorite non-D&D RPG. Go. So for most of you, probably a few weeks ago, I had talked a little bit about the D&Ds, right? Like, hey, Wizards of the Coast, the head of Wizards is like from Microsoft. She has a huge digital background. Yeah, that's where they want to go. They bought D&D Beyond. They announced one D&D. You know, dynamic books, I guess you could call. I say because dynamic books are like you can buy the book digitally, but they can change it. Can't really do that with print if you own it. And people are like losing their minds and oh my God, it's the end. It's the end. The end is coming. DCC. That's a good one. It's going to end. It's going to kill the hobby. It's going to kill the hobby. So throw in some clickbait. Why not, right? Sounds good. So this is by Chase Carter over at Polygon, dated September 12th, 2022. And you know what? There was a video that was floating around too with somebody kind of commenting on what that ecosystem looks like and some of the drawbacks to it. And like, I think we know what those drawbacks are. The thing is it doesn't really affect us really, unless you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. But Sean, it could affect the hobby. Like, why would I want to create a book because, or put something out because everybody's playing D&D and I can't, or if I'm a D&D content creator, now that might be a problem. Like on how this turns out, like, hey, I've got titles on D&D Beyond, third parties, like, how does that affect us? I don't know. Start doing it for another game. Like, you don't have to be into their ecosystem, but everybody else is. Everybody is everybody's playing it. Everybody's playing it. So it says at the turn of the millennium, premier tabletop publisher Wizards of the Coast purchased the rights of D&D and from a struggling TSR. Newsflash: Wizards has not owned D&D forever. Ryan Dancy. Okay, so they go into the history. We'll skip that. One of the best podcast episodes, I think, that I actually can mentally remember, was the one that Fear the Boot did with Ryan Dancy about the purchasing of Dungeons and Dragons. It's quite insightful and should be like out there for everybody to listen to, and it should be touted loud and clear because it was good. So Ryan brokered kind of the deal, which was weird because I think there was an AEG involved, and it's weird. It wasn't straight Wizards. I mean, it did, but I think there's a little detail that was missing. So, anyways, talks a little bit about the history and said, hey. And I'm sure the premise is like, this is how it started. This is what happened when 3rd edition came around, which is like the OGL and the SRD, and how it influenced things like mentions Dogs in the Vineyard and Apocalypse World and Lady Blackbird and Fiasco and Germinate culture in the late aughts, leading to a blooming of indie RPG designers. Fast forward 16 years and 2 editions, and Wizards of the Coast contemplated the launch of the new D&D 5th edition by introducing a digital marketplace where anyone could create and sell their own games and supplements. Okay, yes, that's true, right. The only reason I hesitate is because they did GleeMax, which is not what they're referring to, but GleeMax was a failed digital initiative by Wizards for pre-4th edition. Having learned that, so they positioned Dungeon Masters Guild agreement not to protect the mechanical identity of the game, but that of its IP, it says. Forgotten Realms, Beholders, Drizzt, Plane Chase could only be used inside the new walled garden. Still got GleeMax on my brain. Skip forward another 6 years. Going through the timeline, tabletop RPGs have enjoyed the largest period of growth and popularity in the relatively young medium's lifespan, even accounting for COVID-19 pandemic disruption. Other companies have followed in Wizards of the Coast's wake by building fences around their own gardens, many of which are studded with huge media licenses. But none are listed. Meanwhile, the indie scene instead has moved toward extremely permissible SRDs and the open planes of collaboration. Dancy's legacy has created 2 diametrically opposed paths tabletop RPGs might walk, and we are fast approaching the fork in the road. All right, so life inside the garden's walls. I'm going to put this link to the article here, of course. Matthew Whitby has spent nearly all his career inside the Dungeon Masters Guild, a digital storefront owned by Wizards of the Coast where creators play in the company's officially sanctioned fantasy sandboxes. The designer behind the popular RPG supplement Doomed Forgotten Realms, Sword Coast Gazetteer, speaks fondly of his experiences, but also says he deeply admires independent designers. He wants to create his own RPGs and admits the prospect of leaving the guild is terrifying. Yeah, so if you're in that ecosystem, this stuff's there's gonna be a shakeup. Maybe you do the same thing, you just do it for D&D Beyond, and maybe you get the same cut. But Wizards gets more, right? They don't have to give any to one bookshelf. Right. The contrast, Arian says, increased popularity because of the pandemic, not in spite of. Yeah. This contrast tears at him throughout his interview for the story. Whitby first claims that relinquishing creative freedom isn't so tough a pill to swallow. He finds the community within the DMG, so DMG, Dungeon Masters Guild, kind and supportive of fellow creators, providing helpful tools and information, including pointing out legal pitfalls. As a matter of fact, they have art you can use, where somebody on Twitter was like, look at this, everybody's copying the art. Yes, because you're allowed to. Educate yourself. He admits the same community conspicuously ignores any RPG material sold beyond the garden walls, but adds that he and many of his peers prefer that to what feels like a mercenary landscape on independent storefront drive-through RPG. Talks a little bit about money here. So creators can keep more of the money if they publish their adventure modules, campaign settings, or a collection of fandom tables on drive-through RPG, which carves 30% off exclusive listings, 35% off all others. But the guild is a known quantity within the massive D&D player base. So in the guild, you don't have to contend with Merc Borg supplements, Cyberpunk Red missions, and the content cheekily advertised for the world's biggest tabletop game. Instead, you can sell directly to people for whom D&D and tabletop RPG are synonymous. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's not a ton of D&D stuff outside of DM's Guild, honestly. You can, but I don't know. It sounds maybe a little silly if you did that. Whitby says he doesn't think Wizards is interested in actively cultivating its garden, though. Well, it's speculation. Doesn't know. And maybe he, who knows, perhaps a better angle. He mentions the guild's sporadic promotion of titles on social media, catching creators by surprise, even though the act can turn a middling launch into a breakout success via Spotlight alone. The guild's license also prohibits creators from using certain properties, forcing them to choose from among an approved list. Popular alternative settings such as Spelljammer and Planescape were not on the list until after the Wizards of the Coast announced its own official books. Yeah, man, let's make no mistake, man. Wizards is the controlling property here. Like, they're the company. They've created all this crap. And if they're going to let you do your stuff, their thing is you got to play by the rules. That's the deal. Yes, you have to compete with DM Guild's bloat, for sure. You sure do. Which is one, why not put it off a DM's Guild? Well, then you can't use any stuff. That's the rub. Everybody wants the stuff. So they're kind of like, okay. If you want to use the stuff, here's the trade-off. You're not buying it. Kinda, you are, I guess, to some degree, but as long as you understand the deal, then there's not a big deal. Just deal. Bam. Of course, Victor Wyatt. It's it. Yeah, it might not even be something you like. Yeah, I don't really like this part of the deal. Well, then go do stuff for Forbidden Lands and Free League. They have their content creating license. Call of Cthulhu does. There's hey, I know this is shock, but WotC's not the only game in town. but they're a monopoly. No, they're not, because they're not the only game in town. Do they have a huge marketing budget? Yeah. Some folks in our RPG hobby struggle to understand that we don't the IPs we enjoy. We don't what the IPs we enjoy. We don't own the IPs we enjoy. Yes, correct. We own content at the table, but that's where it ends. Yes, own, right. CJ's right. Yeah. Well, and it gets a little finicky when you're talking about like digital products. Like Disney's, changed movies and stuff. Like people, what the hell? Thanks, Lucas. Probably started with the Han thing. So a lot of people say, I'm developing this thing. I want it to go on DM's Guild, but it doesn't become one of the approved settings. We immediately have to file off the edges or give it a quick paint job for drive-through RPG instead. Yeah, you got to take out all the stuff that they allow you to use. Whitby says, I imagine the official announcement of Spelljammer's return brought a lot of sighs of relief from project managers. Chris Bissett, designer behind Solo Journaling, game sensation The Wretched, is a rare instance of someone who came from inside the garden of the guild but left to create their own games. Yeah, you could do that too. Like all this is like, huh? Right. Like, what? What? I could do that? Yeah. Go for it. They are sympathetic to guild creators attempting to foster a community under the legal thumb of a corporation because they say it could all end tomorrow if Wizards of the Coast so chose. Yeah. Yeah, it's putting the eggs in one basket. Go check out other stuff. That's why it's like, so when there are indie gamers that just loathe Wizards, I understand their frustration. They produce a product, nobody buys it because of the 500-pound gorilla, and not even just the 500-pound gorilla, but the fan base is so, not all, but many are like unwilling to try a different game. And they will go as far as like hammer and taking a sledgehammer to D&D to make it fit. As a matter of fact, the newest thing is Cyberpunk. The Twitters was alive last night. What's that, Sean? Apparently, the new anime, Cyberpunk, whatever it's called, on Netflix, Insular, thank you, Victor. The Cyberpunk anime special on Netflix is gaining huge ground, and Bell of Souls, article contributor, writer of RPG updates, news, whatever, reviews, said, hey, here's how to make this Cyberpunk anime cartoon into D&D or using D&D. And people were like, really? Just play Cyberpunk 2020 or Cyberpunk Red. Now, there's a couple angles there, right? Bell of Souls pandering to the 5e crowd, clickbait, right? And then they say, then a lot of other people are up in arms saying, well, this is one of the problems is that people don't understand there's other stuff out there because even some of the media is talking about D&D all the time, even if it's like porting an IP that everybody enjoys into D&D when there is already a foundation for cyberpunk role-playing games. Victor says, sure, can. I love seeing people make new things, though my wallet hates it, for sure. CJ says, yeah, Kickstarter shinies has been a real problem for me the last couple of years. Victor says, one of my high school buddies is like that. He does not like things that are not D&D for the most part. Yeah, it's I get it to some degree. Like if I was a kid and there was first edition AD&D and I saw a module in the store, I'd pick up a Roll Aids module, but there was something to be said without the cool yellow banner across the top that told me the series, Adventure Module I-9 or whatever it was. I think when you get into that space, when you're a kid, or maybe it's not even being a kid, but maybe when it was fresh and new, there is an expectation with that product. There is a difference between buying, like it or not, there is a difference between buying a Wizards of the Coast product and something in DM's Guild that's not done by Wizards of the Coast. You could like the other thing, but there is a difference, probably, right? But some of those DM Guild things are really awesome. The problem is you got to wade through all the stuff that's probably not interesting or not written very well, because like podcasting, like YouTubing, the nice thing is anybody can do it. The bad thing is anybody can do it. So you get into these quality things and, plus taste and what you like in an adventure or whatever. Yeah, they make a deal with the devil and are shocked when he changes the terms of the contract. Yes. Hope that I don't change it further. Multiple devils. Okay. So what happens to the stuff that people have written and published on DM's Guild? What happens to the people whose careers depend on DM's Guild? They ask. It's like being a developer whose apps are only available in the Apple Store. This isn't like, yep. What happens if tomorrow Apple closes the Apple Store? You're screwed. Yeah. That's the problem with this stuff. That's the problem, man, for sure. For sure. But here's the thing. People don't buy Apple. But I think, they're all devils. All of them are. But there's people there's a choice. I am an Apple user. And I think the demand's there. So the App Store, keep in mind the App Store could change and, screw over developers. But if they get too restrictive or they become too much of a pain or they don't have the user base, then the developers aren't going to create for the App Store. If they don't create for the App Store, then Apple's quality of offerings diminishes. And when that happens, it's like a very strange, everything's related. It does feel like an owner of the local VHS store complaining about digital media. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's what this is all going to be for the next few years. Harrigan cannot pick a favorite. Come on, buddy. Really? Depends on my mood. Well, what's your mood right now? Heavy gear? Barbarians of Lemuria. Fate, Vaesen. 20 more. Come on. Way more to choose. Okay. All right, fine. So Bissett expects the launch of D&D's next iteration, codename 1D&D, to sound the death knell for Dungeon Masters Guild as Hasbro consolidates digital tool set D&D Beyond and other assets closer to the corporate chest. They point to the shuttering of first the WotC forums, then the online content subscription service D&D Insider as proof that the company has a history of leaving scorched earth and marooned creators in the wake of D&D's iterations. Polygon reached out to Wizards of the Coast multiple times to participate in this story, but the company declined to comment. Shocker. We're not going to talk to you about this stuff. Well, they could say they reached out. Hey, we tried to reach out. We tried to get their take. They're not going to tell you what's going on. Come on now. Whitby agrees with Bissett's prediction with an odd bit of optimism in his voice, saying it was good while it lasted. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Tell me right now. I know a lot of us are not like, hey, I play 5th edition only, or I play it a ton, kind of fits in with like our friends' games or whatever, which is fine. But do you think that the content from DM's Guild, we don't know the agreement between Wizards of the Coast and One Bookshelf necessarily. Like, maybe anything created on there is like mutual. I don't know. I don't know if Wizards can just go, hey, we kind of own all this stuff, so we're just going to take it and then we're going to throw it into D&D Beyond, or do they have to start from scratch and say, we're terminating this agreement and moving forward, you can keep what's on there. You could sell what's on there. The terms that were agreed and then everything was done between 3 parties is fine, but moving forward, it's done. Okay, no more submissions. If they want to submit anything, they got to do it over here on D&D Beyond. Is that a big deal? Like, do you guys see that happening? I can't imagine that they're going to alienate the third-party creators, the independent third-party creators. I don't think so. Wizards of the Coast doesn't have a huge team where they're going to be cranking out all this material. Wayne says they'll start from scratch. Sure. D&D Beyond, new marketplace. It's all digital. No print on demand. You want to buy it. Here's the deal. The agreement could stay the same. Maybe they give a little more to the contributors. Maybe they say we up it to 35%. I don't know. Why would they take all of it? They could do like the House of Mouse did with the expanded Star Wars universe and cherry pick. They could, but what are they cherry picking? They could do that. I mean, I guess, right? I don't know. If I were to say they can't do that, I don't know on what grounds. Like they could or couldn't. Like, I don't know the legal contract crap that's involved. None of us really, I don't know. Maybe somebody does. Like, what is it exactly? They will let them continue to sell on OBS and make a better walled garden. Yeah, I think that's, and will they limit future submissions though? Will they say, hey, or will they have both? But the terms are different. So you could go to DM's Guild and put something up there, and this is what you get. But if you go over here to D&D Beyond, this is what you get. Only the lawyers know everything. Yeah. I think there is going to be a third-party marketplace for D&D. Or they could do, what they could do is they could pick certain third parties, Kobold Press, Ghostfire, I think is one, right? I think Merwin's at Ghostfire, right? I don't know. Throw in another D&D. Legacy, no. Frog God, I don't know. Goodman Games, like if they wanted to do 5th edition content and just say, hey, they are certified 5th edition authors, and they just allowed those on there, I would be surprised if any of those companies would sign on. But you never know. Do they do that on DM's Guild? I don't think they do they? Like Frog God Games, they do their own stuff, but do they have material on DM's Guild? I don't think they do. They do 5th edition. They just don't put it on there. I'm not sure. They could mostly keep Baker's additional Eberron content. Yeah. Like they could, that's what they try to do, right? They had those like DM Guild, whatever they're called, ambassadors, whatever. And they took and some of them were like just, Satine Phoenix was on there. I don't know if her material is good or not, but obviously I would probably think that it had to do more with influence. So they had like a crowd. Keith obviously doing Eberron is a whole different thing. I don't know, but you could have those special, spotlight people, whatever. I think the key word in this was a lot of people base their careers on DM's Guild. That's mistake number one. I don't base my entire career on one subcontract, no matter how lucrative it's been. Yeah. And if you're doing that, can you try to break into Wizards or Kobold Press, or like being used as a stepping stone to get into like a staff position, or even just like a dedicated freelance position for somebody else? DM's Guild's perfect for like, hey, look at these titles I've done. They've gone on to like gold status, maybe you've sold 1,000 copies and you got some RPG chops. Great resume builder. You try to make it bigger, but yeah, it's like kind of you're right. It's one way to make a living, I suppose. I think they will select several DMG stars and produce to premiere in their new garden. Yeah, can verify Frog God has 5e stuff on drive-through, but none on DM Guild. Yeah, because they're using their own stuff. They don't need the IP stuff from WotC. So their stuff has to compete with everything on drive-through. But they also have their own website too. Like you go there and get your stuff. Where's Goodman's 5e stuff? It's probably on their own site. I think you can get it there. I can't imagine it's on DM's Guild. The biggest draw to DM's Guild is one, it's all 5th edition stuff, so that'd be one draw. The other draw is you get to use all the artwork and fonts and layout stuff that Wizards probably put together for you for community content creation. If you don't need those things, then you could do your 5th edition stuff on your own, put it on your own website, but then you don't get the exposure that comes with DM's Guild, one would argue. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to go long, man. Already an hour into this and only one article. Whippy agrees with Bissett's prediction with an odd bit of optimism, saying it was good while it lasted and that the resulting wave of creative content will find new homes and fresh success beyond the garden walls, whether that's on Itch or any of the following growing number of crowdfunding platforms. He's leaving design for now to finish a PhD. But Whitby talks excitedly about one day venturing into indie design, a prospect that was once an overbearing fear. Green Thumb Publishers. What is this? Is this the same? Green Thumb Publishers. Chris Birch discusses Modifius' future plans with an eager cast to his eyes. Co-founder and chief creative officer of the tabletop publisher Fallout. He's on the cusp of launching the World Builders program in hopes of stewarding fledgling designers towards his company's license and system. Yeah, Fallout, Star Trek, Conan. Right, same with Free League. They got their kind of thing, but they put it on drive-through. Much like Fandom and Cortex did earlier in 2020, Modifius produced a pair of licenses and an SRD for both commercial and community works created using its system and affiliated properties. The World Builders is the same as DMG, Birch says, before explaining additional plans for those who chose the commercial route. Modifius will hold seminars aimed at teaching young game designers the skills and acumen they need to succeed in exchange for a 10% royalty on all major sales. 10%. Huh? Tell me you're going to get more than 10%. Morning, Laramie. What's your favorite? Laramie's, I could tell. Laramie, what's your favorite fantasy RPG? Not D&D. Orcs says they can't produce PDFs for their reincarnated line due to the contract with WotC. It's physical only on their site. Interesting. Anyways, the prospect is sure to entice people. Talking about Modifius, more than a few designers hoping to become the next Free League. The Swedish publisher that recently lifted up Mörk Borg and Death in Space stretched its own wings under Modifius' guidance. Birch believes a direct hand in shaping the future class of tabletop creators is the least he could do within his position. He understands that many will be turned off by the system alone due largely to the granularity of its mechanics and strong franchise media ties. We're very Marmite. People both love D20 and hate it, but hopes the success builds a thriving community. It's just another option. Another option, right? More options are better. So, Fenceless Future. As anyone familiar with the indie tabletop scene will attest, smaller designers have been actively building communities around systems for years. Bakers with Apocalypse World spawned countless PBTA, and the pair never once tried to tie their landmark creation to a license. When SRDs do pop up in indie games, they read more as political statements about art and creation under capitalism. For example, Monkey's Paw Games ends all of its SRDs with, "Be cool, I don't have lawyers," while many others have adopted a broad, "Bigots and Nazis can't use my game" edict. It's not funny. The developers of Merkborg arguably pushed the permissible license into a more public spotlight when they launched the curated fan creation zine Merkborg Cult soon after the game's 2019 publication. Creator Stockholm Cartel, Occult Earthmister Games, and Free League accept RPG supplements from and paid a flat rate to zealous fans who were already creating their own supplemental material. Artist Johan Nohr says their open license led to over 1,000 related titles released in the first year alone. Oh, yeah. So, I don't know. Read the article. I'm not going to read all this stuff. It just goes into all the... It's almost at the end. Yeah. So, anyways, DM's Guild, Wizards, Digital, Walled Garden, huge problem. For some, definitely. We'll see. We'll see. The only time will tell. Who knows? Next one, 10 best accessories for your D&D setup. Of course, D&D gets the masses to look at it, although there's probably some cool stuff in here that all of us could use. If you're using miniatures, they got the little rings. All right. 200-page journal notebook by Lynx. Those, see, like you don't need that. It could be for any game. That's pretty looking cool. If you're in a long D&D campaign, there's going to be a lot of information. Bronze Dragon, Silver Dragon, Bronze Phoenix, Rose Gold Phoenix. Ooh, yeah, those are pretty cool, man. And it's on Amazon, not Etsy. Interesting. Dice sets with drawstring bag. What? Dice sets with drawstring? What? No way. I've got a couple, but it's not pictured here. They're just picturing dice. D&D condition markers. RPG battle grid game mat, of course. Most of us have had one or two of these in our day. I think I gave... No, there was... Well, maybe I still have them. I have the dry erase tiles. Like the plastic tiles. I can't remember what they're called. I don't think they're made anymore. Pocket compendium and spell book. It looks like it's just a bound card holder. Brian in the park. Did you color your hair? What are you talking about, Brian? Adventurer's D&D bag. That was on one of the weeks we touched on that thing. Orcus, I think, bought it for his son or somebody. Crown Royal. I did not color my hair. I have a light above me. Probably changes things. What else? Deluxe miniature tavern set. Hexagonal dice rolling trays. These were good. I had an octagonal one, and it was hard. I thought it would be cool, but it's hard to slip into bags. So I would highly recommend the ones with the snaps. Wooden Dungeon Master screen. Cool. Elevated transparent damage and spell template. Oh, that looks pretty decent. Yeah. Interesting. So the picture on... Yeah, look at that. That's a good idea. Plop it down as long as it doesn't... You know, you're going to plop that down and one of those stupid pillars is going to be right on top of a miniature. That's it. That's all I wanted to pull up. Some cool stuff we could or could not use and might already have. But nonetheless, you never know what's going to be available. Oh, magnets. Well, fancy pants, Victor. If magnets are your thing. Let me see. Oh, I have stuff even before. See this one. This was interesting, and I don't think I read the whole thing at all, actually, but it was Dan Talks Games. This is the most tacit... Oh, it is a long thread, too. I don't know if I'll get through this. This is the most tacit admission I've seen from an RPG designer of how elitist gatekeeping and grognardism was killing their game. And I think it's good it was said. Looks like from a, well, no, Paizo staff. Oof. I have to sneeze. Brian in the Park, have you listed your favorite fantasy RPG that is not D&D? Grognardism. I don't know. I mean, we really couldn't have, so I don't know what this is getting at. Like, I don't know what this comment is to, but regardless. Player companions were almost as likely to lose money as make money towards the end. A big part of why we don't do them anymore. Oh, interesting. And attrition in the market had hit the point where we were losing players faster than the system could replace them. Oh, low fantasy. All right, cool. It doesn't have to be a question. It can be low fantasy gaming. Steve Grodzicki and Pickpocket Press. Shout out to Steve. PF1 or Pathfinder 1 just wasn't a game that was bringing in new consumers. So this is S. Salarn. So is there an S. Salarn over at ISO? PF1 just wasn't a game that was bringing in new consumers. I've noted before, if we'd still been making PF1 when COVID hit, we'd probably have gone under. Hey, Ty. Best fantasy RPG has to be ICRPG or Dungeon World. Wow. Its density was a huge turnoff to younger gamers, and its main fans were aging out of being reliable consumers much faster than younger fans were coming in. It's undeniable that Pathfinder 1's poor balance and severe crunch density was a part of that. New gamers who made, for example, a ranger out of the CRB and then sat down at a table only to discover they weren't even playing the same game as their more experienced peers were as likely to leave and never look back as they were to try and get good. The get good. At the urging of some random strangers, especially since at its core, Pathfinder is not intended to be a competitive game between the players. Oh, interesting. Everybody following along here? So it's somebody from Paizo that's talking about Pathfinder 1. Get good has been a thing. But I guess it depends on what circles you run into. I don't experience it much, but I've heard the derogatory term. Hey, Lucas. Lucas, favorite RPG outside of D&D? And thank you all for showing up on Sunday. Really appreciate it. It's got a really good turnout. I really appreciate it. Yesterday I was flying and I couldn't make it, so thanks for being adaptable. More than that, the communities had reached maximum stagnation. Towards the end of PF1, the majority of the posters in the major communities were 3 PP shills, 3 platinum point shills, toxic old grognards, and worthless trolls, more concerned with scoring points than having real conversations about a game that people enjoyed playing. So there are forums, I think you get points for contributing. So that's just to remove the point thing, right? Like gamifying your forums could probably be not the best. That's the reason that I personally spend more time here than any other forum that talks about our game. I don't know where that is, but anyways. The majority of the people posting here are still bringing excitement, joy, love of the game, and general positivity in their posts. Sure, there are trolls, toxicity, and non-constructive criticism, just like anywhere, but they're not the core of this sub's tone. Oh, it's a subreddit. I guess. Or a subcategory, subform. I don't know. Anyways, but they're not the core of the sub's tone or content like they are elsewhere. And so what I just read, going back to folks just to bring up people up to speed, is Dan Talks Games on Twitter said, this is the most tacit admission I've seen from an RPG designer of how elitist gatekeeping and grognardism was killing their game. I think it's like, is it not defending grognardism and gatekeeping, elitist grognardism? I feel I'm probably a grognard, but maybe not elitist. But, you know, is it kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because those guys have always been in that game. But they do say, like, the younger crowd weren't coming in. They were just, it's not a game they were preferring. Right? Its density was a huge turnoff to younger gamers. So the advantage of Pathfinder is you buy the whole game in the core book. Like, it's the GM and player's guide all in one. If they were to take out all the player stuff and it was a player's guide or a player's handbook, would that matter? I don't know. And its main fans were aging out of being reliable consumers much faster than younger fans were coming in. So like me, right? That's probably me. I played a ton of Pathfinder 1 when 4th edition came out. Pathfinder was one of the leading RPGs in the hobby. And then 5th edition came around and we were just kind of like, eh. Not all grognards are come on, I'm trying to show it. Are grumpy old shits, just like not all indie creators. Yes, for sure. Lucas says Call of Cthulhu. Fair enough. Two COCs. What I was a part of the organized play, I ran into a lot of issues where it was all about your build over your character, and it was part of the reason I got out of it. It was hard to introduce new people. Yeah, that I think is pretty standard. Like I don't. That was, I mean, yes. Well, and then if you talk about the Ivory Tower article about Monty Cook and 3.5 and how it was put together in a particular way and designed to be, know the rules, and you can, it's about game mastery and rules. in optimization, and it was designed to do that. And Pathfinder is a direct derivative of 3.5, and it has a lot of like porting over, right, of things. You don't have to play that way, but people are going to be like, we have a gentleman in our Discord. He's a colleague of mine, and I went down Friday, and he's like, "Hey, Sean, I got to talk to you about D&D 5th edition." And yeah, man, let's talk gaming, dude. I love making a trek a 1,000 miles away or whatever, and we could talk gaming. So one of the things he's running into is the makeup of his 5th edition group, and they, some are thinking about Call of Cthulhu. And I said, that's cool if you can get those folks to kind of try something new. It's a different game. Some make that transfer, no problem. Some don't like it at all, right? Because it's a different game than 5th edition. And, some of the struggles he's having is, I've got some players that like to play like this and some players like to play like that. And scheduling can be a pain. And, I was kind of telling him about some of the stuff we talked about on Gaming and BS, which is a lot of that, right? Like, what are you going to do? And you either have to deal with some of those dynamics and you acquiesce, or you got to find a different group. Like, if it drives you that bonkers, you have to find people that are wanting to play in a particular style or the game that you want to enjoy. And that is hard. That's a hard hill for some people to overcome. And he is, I don't know, like, hugely on how he found his group. I think he might have mentioned it to me. Some of the details might have escaped me, but it is these are my friends. I want to play with them. I trust them. I'm like, join our Discord, man. People are playing all kinds of different stuff and talking about all kinds of different games. And 5th edition is certainly welcome there for sure. But it'll expose you to different people and different styles, and some will play a one shot, and then you play in that one shot, and then you have a good time, and then that person's like, hey, you were in my one shot, cool, I'm gonna want to run something a little longer. Would that be something you're interested in? You seem to kind of gel in the one shot I ran, and then you're like, yeah, because you were a great game master, and then all of a sudden a new game group starts. I bring that up because I don't know where I'm going with this. Jay, you got to lay right there, buddy. It's this thread. It's like, oh, yeah, for sure. I could see that. I mean, I like the fact that somebody came out and just kind of said it. Like, hey, here's kind of the deal. And Dan goes into a pretty long thread about it. And he made a Reddit post about how he hated the ivory tower design of older systems like 3.5 first edition because it was just kind of smug and gatekeepery, and it attracted douchebags whose narrative fantasies were inherently tied to the mechanical superiority those games offered. So keep in mind, yes, sure, but not everybody's in that camp, right? But then you go back to like, well, that's how you'd play. That's what you do. That's how it's designed. Should I be playing a different game? If I don't want to take power attack as a fighter, is that a dumb move? So I got a swath of people responding saying that was their experience too, and that a big reason they prefer modern games is because it doesn't attract as many assholes. They don't need to gatekeep those games because they inherently deter elitist showboaters. Wow. Oops. Didn't want to go into it. Wanted to make it bigger. There it is. The whole get good mentality is passable in single layer video games because you have no one to impress but yourself. But in a group scenario, social dynamics matter. And if your dynamic is I need to be better, or I need to better than my teammates, you're probably going to be grading. I'm just thinking about that line in The Social Network where Zuckerberg's soon-to-be X says, you'll think everyone hates you because you're smart, but you're wrong. Everyone hates you because you're an asshole. That's a great line. This is why I hate generalized friendly platitudes in the RPG sphere like system doesn't matter and let people play how they want. Hey, that's me. I feel targeted. Systems can never appeal to everyone. They will always attract a certain kind of player, and sometimes those players are undesirable. Sometimes, yes, for sure, absolutely. I don't disagree with Dan at all here. He brings up some valid points, like yes, but it could go in any game, really. Games like 351E are dying for a reason. People who are upset they are and blaming vague issues like players wanting less crunch or complexity need to take a good hard look at what makes their preferred systems appealing and why they're not profitable anymore. One final positive aside, the PF2E sub is pretty great. And a big part of that is down to the moderation, fostering a good community and stamping out toxicity. Shout out to Rule Lord 2E and his team for good work. Just to follow up, a few people in this thread point out how the commenter was a prominent third-party author before joining Paizo himself and took offense to his dismissal of 3 PPS. What is that? What am I missing? Dismissal of 3 PPS? What is that? Alongside Trolls and Grodmarts. 3 PPS. I don't know. He's responded directly to a similar criticism on the sub since. Third-party publishing, right? That's maybe that's what it is. Because he says in this, did you start as a third-party publisher author shilling your product in those same communities? That strikes me as incredibly mean-spirited and dismissive of the people who helped you build your career. Thanks, CJ. And he goes to admit, I did, and I still support third-party publishers and even write some. What I said is absolutely not meant to be mean-spirited or dismissive, but when everyone in a community is only there to sell to each other, criticize each other, or troll each other, the community has reached end of life. That's just facts. I have on more than one occasion pushed very hard for the inclusion of third-party products in subs, forums, Paizo blog posts. I'm sure you'll even find a few people on this sub whose third-party products I've supported in it one way or another, but that's irrelevant to the fact that if you looked at, for example, most of the PF1 Facebook groups, people were only there to shitpost, bitch, or sell something. That's not a community. That's Craigslist. If it's the term shill that you're taking offense to, it wasn't intended to be offensive. I think most of us who've worked at third-party publishing circuit have talked about shilling our products. You have to. There's no marketing budget. And shills, as a less than majority percentage of a community, are good because they fill in the corners of the stories and ideas that people blah, 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 blah. Okay. In lieu of this blowing up, I want to tail end with a few addendums. First, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is about the PF first edition community, not the second. Very involved with the latter. It is a much more intuitive game with a more engaging community. It might have started out that way too with first though, right? If you want to try second edition out, there you go. Second, a lot of people are saying that 351E was not designed to be obtuse, but was a result of content bloat. This is just not true. 3.5, which was the chassis for 1E, was purposely designed with ivory tower design. And he says 1E is in Pathfinder 1E. Which was the chassis for 1E was purposely designed with ivory tower design in mind. There it is. I thought so. This great thread, blah, 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 sums up the principles and how it worked in 3.5 very well. What do you think? As someone who loved 1E and avidly followed its development, I could see Paizo struggling against their inherent design for all its stewardship of 3.5 OGL. They were trying to apply more stable game design principles to a chassis that inherently rejected it. PF2 is much cleaner. Game that aligns with the vision they were clearly going for, and you could see that in the design principles if you followed that through line. I don't know, interesting, I guess, right? Like, so, right? I don't know. Much as I have criticisms of 5e mechanically and the monoculture around it, the indisputable net win it gave was expanding the base and forcing companies to engage with a market outside of the tiny group of hardcore grogs and pendants. Or pedants. Paizo did this and saved themselves from commercial doom. They have drunk from the poison chalice initially to make buck, but in creating a game that was much more about the intersection of mechanics and fantasy, they learned themselves a much better audience. Earned. Excuse me. Oof. Interesting. I don't know. The dynamics, man, game design and who it attracts and what it does, like, that's game design matters. You know, play what you want. I don't know. That I think there's certain mantras you can stand by. Because if I were in a group where that's the thing, then I just don't play in that group. Well, then there's nobody else to play with, which isn't necessarily the case. What is going on over here? Laramie, thank you. Ty, historically AD&E, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah. Orcus says, that's a good point. If you are at a table full of min-max douchebags who enjoy that kind of competitive play, you are simply a douchebag to them? Yeah, I don't, that's the problem, right? Like, if it's that, you want to play that way and you're wanting to play Pathfinder 1 or 3.5 and that's kind of the deal, then it's a session 0 thing. Like, hey, here's the thing. You want to learn 3.5 or play Pathfinder? We've got a group here. I'll tell you though, here's the thing. Like, we're more about optimization than whether you have a grandmother living in insert, Absalon city name or whatever. Make sure you take the right things. Make sure you can kill stuff, manipulate people. I don't know. That's the deal. That's the game. And that's not even just the game. It's the way we like to play that game. I don't know. How you burned your D&D books. I don't know if that was wise. You could have probably traded them in, dude. Maybe got a buck or two. Maybe you could have gave them to somebody else that would have enjoyed them. I don't know. I don't know if book burning's the way to go. The table sets the baseline, like Laramie says. Crystal, what are you doing here? Crystal, you have to tell us what is your favorite RPG fantasy that's not D&D. Crystal and I've played quite a bit together. It's so much easier to find groups that play how you want to play these days with the internet and such, for sure. But it's weird, man. People are like, I don't know. I think as we get older, maybe it's not as big a deal. But when does that, I thought college got people out of their shell quite a bit. Like, they discover themselves and they can be whoever the hell they want. High school is very crazy. If you're a story gamer that enjoys role play and you're at a table of gatekeeping OD&D players, yeah, you're the jerk. All right, see you, Wayne. Good to see you, Crystal. Yeah, people are adverse to that though, to some degree. Like, hey, you want to play in this game? Here's the thing: you play in one session, doesn't work, you leave. Hey, what's up, Joe? Joe, favorite fantasy RPG, not D&D. Done with Windows work, laptop setup. That took longer than I wanted. Usually does. Brian in the park. I like the build over a character line. That's the path we all walk regarding Murder Hobo or Railroads. No room for backstories there. Yeah. It's just the way, I don't know. People are like, well, if you don't want that in your game, then don't play that system because that's the system that it's facilitate. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have, no offense to Joes or Josephines, but you got to have Joe Kickass as a player character. I don't know. Anyway, Frosted Tips. Call me Frosted Tips. Somebody said if I dyed my hair. My Frosted Tips. Maybe I gotta turn it down. Maybe it's too bright. There, a little more subtle. Frosted Tips. You got your Frosted Tips right here, buddy. Fantasy system, game, whatever. Game. All right, let's move on to what else we want to talk about. What else I got here? What's this thing? Did we Menire? Come on, get out of here. Lets you build a whole damn world for your RPG campaigns, or you can let it build one for you from mountains to taverns. There you go. A little resource action. Manure. Pitches itself as a storytelling engine is a toolbox that lets players create an entire digital world for their role-playing games, from landscapes to settlements, then play through them. Launched on Kickstarter earlier this month, it has already blown past its funding goal. It's been developed by Nog, a small game studio normally specialized in Unreal Engine stuff and real-time graphics work, and who've worked with companies like EA and Ubisoft. Ubisoft, not to be mistaken for Hoobastank. Here, though, the whole thing is their idea and their work, with Nog promising that Menire will let players build worlds up to an enormous 60 square miles. And then there's a trailer. First, you build the game world, either through procedural generation using manual brush tools or a combination of both. Then you do the same for castles, dungeons, and townships. Then you can import 3D models and 2D assets for your characters and other objects for use some pre-existing templates. Put it all together, input or download some rules, and go at it, either online or locally. Interesting. Ooh, tenacious, I think, too. It loses the tangible joys of tabletop gaming by making everything digital, of course, but is also hoping that degree of customization and possibilities its toolkit offers more than outweigh that. See you, CJ. Interestingly, Nog are advertising Menor as something that will be free to download and use, as it's hoped that their attached marketplace, where players can sell everything from custom rules to character models, and from which Nog will take a cut, will generate enough revenue to keep the lights on. Wow. Kickstarter, which asks for Australian US dollar 67,000, is at 272,000 at the time of this posting. Whoa, you could check out the Kickstarter page right here, man. 337,000 Australian. Oi, check out my ear. Their goal was $43,604. It's up to $3,337,054. Oh, my accent's terrible. Apologies to my whoever ethnicity I'm making fun of. Ooh, interesting. What is this? Look at that. Really? What? Is that like, so is it like level design work? Like if you're playing Neverwinter and that's what you're going to do? It's pretty cool. Looks pretty cool. Very cool. Meet your friends in game. Wow. I don't know. Give it a check. Give it a peek. Just give it a peek. See what it says. Jay, can you lay anywhere but right here? Like Jumbo. Now he's on my foot. Yeah. What? Okay, here's one. Dimension 20 DM and player launches RPG for creating session zeros. So now you can play a game that does session zeros. Right, Jay? Jumbo. I know. Right. New beginnings. A player and DM for the show Dimension 20. Gabe Hicks has launched their first tabletop RPG. Session zero is typically when an RPG group gets together to play as their characters for the first time. Isn't it before you play your characters for the first time? Establishing their personalities, personal stories, how they met, how they interact. Yeah, it's so much more than that. Running and playing a session zero can be intimidating. Really? Can it? I don't know. There's a problem to be solved, apparently. Interesting tool set. Sometimes the party cohesion, though, and bringing them together can be a little bit of a trick, I'm sure. Yeah. Still want that deck of cards for character relationships that was on your podcast one time that isn't currently available. That was a horrible tease. Still, you can get it, can't you, Laramie? Print on demand, maybe? Backstory cards? Wayne, clever name Wayne, used one. It's the, nope. I don't remember what it was, dude. On top of all this, the TTRPG includes a collection of possible house rules or rules that aren't found in an RPG rulebook itself, guidelines for outlining tone, mood, and themes, and tables designed to provide quick options for story creation. The Session Zero system contains an overview of safety rules, blah, blah, blah. Apart from creating Session Zero, being a game designer, Hicks has also worked with companies such as Paizo, Studio, I don't know what he did there. Mythic Grove is Hicks's company alongside partner Elise Resendez. Interesting. Okay. It's going to be launched soon. So as of this writing, it is not launched yet. Nothing wrong with like structuring that. Some session zeros are loosey-goosey. Sometimes mine are. School D&D club is out of control. D&D is not a niche hobby anymore. This was a person. They got a lot of 550 comments on Reddit. I'm a middle school shop teacher, and it was brought to my attention by the administration that there was some interest from students to form a school D&D club. So the short story is that 50 students signed up. So far, he's done a survey of students to find out who has experience and is interested. So he's looking for advice on, like, how do I do this thing? I should probably put the session zero on there, too. Actually. Oh, that's near session zero. Some links. Ooh-wee. All right. So yeah, the Reddit, if you'd like to help out a teacher get off a D&D group at school, there you go. 81 students, man. Wow. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's 4,800 upvotes from somebody who obviously has some good tips. Yeah. Good. Cool. D&D Dungeon Master creates stunning WoW-themed adventure table builds. Come on. Play minis, don't like minis. These are always fun to see. Todd Putnam is that D&D DM that you just wish you could play with. He creates elaborate tabletop terrain builds that allow players to really visualize the story. Putnam got so into the table builds that he started a Facebook group for similarly minded people. While really cool, that's not what earned Putnam his community spotlight. This is. Recently, I decided to start trying to replicate the fun and nostalgia of certain WoW zones and adventures into my tabletop D&D experience as well, and it's been a real joy. My players love the games, except I tend to roll a lot of natural 20s and critically hit them, but all my dice rolls are on in the open table so everyone can see what they are real. It's all just a part of the fun of playing together. Just like dungeon groups in World of Warcraft, seeing the joy and surprise on my players' faces is what inspires me. Something magical about seeing it come to life before your eyes. So I am not a WoW guy, so all this will be lost on me, but apparently, I mean, if you are a WoW person, you might even recognize some of these. I have no idea. Playing preference, yes or no? You got to give credit to all the labor involved in this stuff. You can put this at a con. That would be fun, right? Raid! Leroy Jenkins! It's hot. Damn hot. Whoa. So if you're listening to this, this is going to be lost on you. But you got to see it. It's all big diorama work. You know, lava and hot tiles and lava going through the cracks of the tiles and those, what are those, Ifritis? Fire giants? Whatever they're called in WoW. Lava giants, who knows? Yeah, and the amount of real estate this stuff takes up, man. This is my living room. You could see the couch in the background. Dwarven Forge. Oh, some bucks, man. That is some bucks. Bucks in time. Now that's just like a regular table size, right? You know, that's, well, there's two there. That's two there. Side by side. You can see the crack in the lower corner. I don't know, man. That's a lot of work. Very impressive. Very impressive indeed. Jeez, trees with suspension bridges by logs. Wow. Get it? Wow. Hey-oh. The rock have like a little purple tinge to them. Some of those. Interesting. Yeah. It's good. Water. Look at that. Beach. How the water looks like it's floating up there. I wonder how he did that. Oh, Sean, you just dry brush. It's really easy, actually. Well, actually. The beach looks really cool, doesn't it? Looks like Cliffs of Dover, man. Whatever. Jay. Sit somewhere else, buddy. Oh, man. On these miniatures, like, where do you get these things? Do they sell WoW miniatures? They did have a WoW miniature game, didn't they? No, they didn't. I don't know. They had a card game. Yeah, you got to see this. Did I put it in the notes? I'll put it in the chat. Look at that. Swampy, lakey, lake water. Look at that, man. Oh, man. That's crazy. Look at that. The couches in the background. That's got to be like 2 6-foot tables at least, side by side, maybe, or 4 by something. I think that's where we started. Yeah, that's where we started. Whoops. Hey, man, get me out of here. Get me out of here, man. Yeah, man. Gotta look at that. Boom. Let's see what else we're getting here. So, okay, now we're getting into the regular stuff. Let's see. Print news. See what's out in print. Thanks to our buddies at EN World that do all the legwork. Thanks, EN World. Go to enworld.org. Book of Eventides by Kobold Press. Interesting cover. Interesting cover. Interesting choice of cover design. It introduces Shadowrun's 60-box deluxe hardcover adventure supplement, twisting and distorted counterpart to the lands PCs know and home to the Shadow of Fae hold court. The Darkul hunt the unwary and people adapted to the shadows attempted to get in on their lives. A realm ever-changing with subtle intrigue and thinly veiled aggression, political opportunities and roaming monsters. Next one, Cursed Throne of Enchanted Grove. Goodman Games, 5th edition, $10 for the module. First level characters. It's a wilderness crawl. Sleeping stone giant is found asleep in the town square and he won't wake up. What do you do with a sleeping stone giant? You let him sleep. Where does a sleeping stone giant sleep? Anywhere they want. Oh, I suppose I should probably show you those things, right? Let me back up. Sean, we can't see anything. Laundry? Jeez, I lose the laundry? See you, Orcus. Book of Eventides. There it is. Interesting cover, like I said. Here's the cursed crones of the Enchanted Grove. But Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's not DCC. It's just by Goodman Games. The Dragon's Horde. Issue number 21 in Dismantling Cities by Legendary Games. You gotta crank out a lot of stuff, man. Legendary Games is on here quite often. So they have these two things, and then they gotta scroll down and even have more. Treasury of the Fleet, Treasury of the Kingdom, Treasury of the Macabre. Excuse me. Jason Nelson cranking them out. Rune Quest. Weapons and Equipment for 4th edition. Odysseus, another Star Trek supplement, man. Their Star Trek line is a beast. This is for Discovery. Not a big fan of Discovery. Just me. Spore Drive. I don't know. The year 2256 to 2258. We're going to be there, and we'll probably barely have like electric cars all over the place. Who knows? Can you imagine like getting into a like, hey, it's like the year 2100. It's like the birthday of the real James Kirk. And we're still like have less than gigabit internet everywhere. We thought we'd be driving flying cars by now. Question Die by Steve Jackson Games. Interesting. For Fantasy Trip, it's a D6. $6 D6 with those things on it. I don't know how much it costs to get that on there. Has 6 faces asking who, what, when, where, why, and how. Hunter, dice set. If you're like a Hunter World of Darkness, which is Renegade Game Studio. 10 years of adventures. Cipher System. Here you go, Cipher System fans. Eileen, hello. $50, 10 limited edition adventures from fantasy and sci-fi one-shots to multi-party mega events to horror adventures. These are fan-favorite adventures chosen from a decade of official MCG Gen Con events that have never seen print before. There you go. There you go for the new print. Should we do crowdfunding and let's wrap this sucker up? Crowdfunding Starlight Arcana, 5th edition, another 5th edition product. I mean, like, dude, there is so much 5th edition stuff. Source book, €65, 500 pages. Wow, not a small tome of 5e options drawn from outer space. Outer space. Funded hugely as of this recording. Ends October 2nd. Dice and logos. Oh, featuring an original maze. Campaign options mazes from the Warden. Hey, this is Todd Crapper's Kickstarter. So anyways, give this one special attention because we love Todd. If you don't love Todd, he's from Broken Ruler Games. Looks like this one he's just doing as the Warden. So it's a 5th edition supplement source book, 10 Canadian bucks for the PDF. Campaign options mazes from the Warden is different than mazes from 9th level games, an RPG I've covered before. So it's different. Instead of a dungeon, run a maze. This book, originally written for 3E, because he did this before, gives all the details you'll need to make a maze to make many mazes. This project includes cartography from Dice and Logos. If you want to create dungeons that are mazes, this book has all the rules you'll need. It's got a week to go. He's trying to succeed. It's got $11,000 goal. It might be a tough one for him to hit. He's at $2,600. Already in on mazes, Laramie? Todd does good stuff. So if you haven't bought any of Todd's games, he's been doing it for quite some time. So just because you haven't heard of him doesn't mean he's not good at what he does. I don't know if I'll get this. I'm not a big maze guy, but because Todd's a friend, I might just kick in, help him out. Uncharted Journeys, Cubicle 7, source book, €50. This offers a different take on your 5e games. This one focuses on journeys. Yes, I posted the link to this, which was like, hey, look at this product that's coming, and it has like all these rules on journeys, which like seem very, very familiar. If you've played other things that have journeying in the game, like each person takes a particular role when you journey. Interesting. Yes, very interesting. Very interesting. So it's funded. Got till October 4th to get in on that. Dead Belt, a tabletop RPG for space cowboys from a Couple of Drakes. The company, Couple of Drakes. Core rulebook, $35. Funded. This space scavenger RPG, its original system, designed for solo or duet play, offers RPG decisions that lead to procedural generation. Think Expanse, but only focused on a single belter or two. Next one, The Anatomy of Adventure from MT Black Games. System neutral source book, 12 Aussie bucks for the digital versions. Why spotlight this? Want to write better adventures? MT Black, author of 50 platinum bestsellers via the DMs Guild and Drive-Thru, who might be affected with, see what they're doing? And over 100,000 book sales. Wow, has a book of advice. What's better, this is the second edition where he's added additional thoughts and better direction. This is twice as long as the first edition as he shares what he's learned over the years. If you want to write better adventures, this is worth checking out. I'm not sure. Tomb of the Twilight Queen, which is not listed, but maybe it's just both of these. They forgot to list the second one. I don't know. Next one, Heroes of Cerulean, pixelated dungeon crawl tabletop RPG from Blackfish Publishing. I gotta give the design props. Look at that. It's like a game cartridge. It's pretty fantastic. Original system, core rulebook. Want to play a lo-fi RPG inspired by Legend of Zelda? The RPG manages perfect pixel art and right feel with video game logic. Using D4s, you'll play as heroes using this 80-page core book. The layout and cover looks like Nintendo cartridge, which with pixel artwork makes this great option to have. Very cool. 10 SEK. Is that Swedish kroner? I think, right? Lore of Aethera, Dark Cemetery from Alchemy RPG. The 5e science fantasy adventure and campaign setting. Funded, very much funded. 96K of 10. Explore the underwater city of Chrysalia. Not an underwater guy. Level up. That's EN World stuff. The Dungeon Delver's Guide. £50. Deadlands Lost Colony. Maw of Oblivion from PEG, Pinnacle Entertainment Group, makers of Savage Worlds. This is a sci-fi arm of Deadlands. You are a frontier's people in space, inhabitants of a world that the Reckoners are coming to make a literal dead land. In 96 pages, hardcover is the first of 3 plot point adventures continuing the Reckoner arc from the core Deadlands Lost Colony book. Spawn point, raw mechanics, original system. Raw mechanics plus zombie apocalypse plus Ukraine. $100. Spawn point offers core rule system, 2 setting options. Interesting. Yes, very interesting. This undeclared war drives the concepts and narratives behind the 50-page Spawn Point Ukraine campaign setting. This looks at a tragic current event. Yeah, it will not be for every gamer, for sure. Interesting. I don't know. Anyways, that's funded. So there you have it. I don't think I have anything else necessarily. Oh, a couple other things. News. Some of you have seen this. Modifius announced the distribution deal for the multiple ENnie award-winning Iron Sworn Starforge role-playing game, which some of you have enjoyed and really appreciate. So you might even know that. Stormlight role-playing game. From Brandon Sanderson. So if you are a fan of Brandon Sanderson, coming out with a role-playing game based on the Stormlight Archive novel series. Not read Brandon's stuff. D&D Afternoons of Adventure await. The After School Kids Club program. Here you go, for educators. And Wizards launched a new program for educators to start Dungeons and Dragons after school clubs. Well, you go. Ring of Spell Storing. Some magic rings. They were kind of cool. I saw, who is it? Is it Sean Reynolds had them or something like that? It's pretty fancy. Rings. Certificate of authenticity. It says $40. It seems a little low for these, no? Assuming they're fairly good quality. Ring of Telekinesis. 6-ring set. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, ring set. $40. Problem is that probably none of them fit my finger. They probably fit mine. Mine aren't very chubby. Got pretty small, I guess small fingers. What are you going to do? Oh. Nope. Where was I? No, I don't know where I was. News. Here we go. Want your own life-size demonic familiar? Oh, yeah, please. WizKids has this as a life-size closet. Almost 500 bones, $475. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Guy for scale purposes. Yeah, no thanks. Not my cup of tea. What's this? One Bookshelf released print-on-demand copies of the core D&D 3.5 books. Wow. 5 of the core rulebooks are available for the first time in print-on-demand in both softcover and hardcover releases. Player's Handbook, Player's Handbook 2, DMG, Monster Manual, and Rules Compendium. Yeah. Cool, huh? What, 3.5? Bring it back, baby. Yeah, I have no 3.5 books. I don't think. None of the core rule books. Oh, new TSR. Yeah, minor update. There's been an agreement made between the lawyers for both sides to postpone the hearing for the injunction until October 28th. So until the hearing, new TSR cannot sell, promote, advertise, market, offer, or distribute any iteration of the Star Frontier's new Genesis product. The postponement comes due to scheduling issues with the attorneys in the case and is not an admission. While the Dungeon Hobby Shop Museum store page has removed Star Frontier's new Genesis from the store, at the time of writing, it is still offering the poker deck with the Star Frontier's logo on the back for sale. Those guys, I don't know. I don't know their end game. Well, I guess sell stuff, right? Anyways, I think that is all that I have. That is not going to get you where I need to, and that isn't either. Anyways, this is probably the one I want. Thanks for joining, everybody. We're right at the 2-hour mark. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to thank everybody that's supporting the show with these fine people right over here at patreon.com/Sean P. Kelly. Thank you very much. I'm blessed. I appreciate it. I hope you do some gaming. I'm like a day off because obviously today is Sunday and not Saturday, which would have been yesterday. So I have other things to do that I have to tend to on the Sunday before the work week. But I hope you're gaming and having fun. And you know what? If you're new here and you want to hang around with some of the folks that have partaken in the chat today, we have the Discord. You can find that at gmmastermind.com/Discord. There's probably a link down below that you can see that in the section below, in the doobly-doo, as some other famous YouTuber might say. But otherwise, very much appreciated. And remember, be a positive force in the tabletop RPG hobby. And we'll see you next week. Ciao.